Hey everyone, and thanks for jumping back into the cryptoverse. Today we're going to talk about Ethereum and look at the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio, as well as Ethereum as valued against USD. So if you guys like the content, please subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, and also check out the Telegram channel, which you can find a link to in the description below. Let's go ahead and jump in. So where are we with Ethereum? We've talked a lot about Ethereum, and of course, we're doing well, right? I mean, the USD valuation is actually doing quite well. It's up pretty significantly over the last week or two. We even hit a low down here at the beginning of October, which was a month and a half ago at around 330. Just a week or two ago, we were at 370. Now we're at 460. This is irrelevant, right? Completely irrelevant. If you guys follow the channel, you guys know that we talk about things in terms of their valuation against Bitcoin. And the reason, as we've said before, is Bitcoin has less volatility than other cryptocurrencies. And when it has less volatility, you would theoretically expect, if you're going to invest in it, you would theoretically expect a lower return. It's all about risk-adjusted returns. Now, a lot of us expect that Ethereum will yield higher returns this market cycle as measured from bottom to top. Right now, timing those is an entirely different story. But as measured from bottom to top, a lot of us expect that Ethereum will yield a higher ROI than Bitcoin. And if you don't think that's the case, then there would be no point in investing in Ethereum, in my opinion, because Ethereum is a lot more volatile than Bitcoin. So a lot of people, within modern portfolio, in quantitative finance and using modern portfolio theory, would say if you have an asset that has a lot higher volatility but is yielding lower returns, then from a risk management standpoint, this simply just does not make a whole lot of sense. I mean, this is not financial advice, but again, you want the best risk-adjusted return. So you want the cleanest way to get there. You want as little volatility as possible, especially to the downside, but you want to see that maximum return. And so when we take on assets like Ethereum that have higher volatility than Bitcoin, we expect a higher return, but we are paying for that theoretical higher return with units of risk. Because when Bitcoin dumps, Ethereum dumps harder, usually speaking. When Bitcoin pumps, and super volatile, Ethereum will bleed against Bitcoin. But we need to get to that Goldilocks zone again of Bitcoin moving sideways in a bullish region above the 20-week moving average, and we're just simply not there yet. So measuring the valuation increase of Ethereum over the last few weeks in USD is great, but we're better than that. We're just simply better than that because we're not into Ethereum to get slightly lower returns than we would have just gotten with Bitcoin, right? We're here because we recognize the true upside potential, and this brings us to again the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio. Okay, and if you guys follow the channel long enough, you'll remember back over here we were talking about this in the downtrend, saying that this is a great accumulation phase for Ethereum against Bitcoin and that it's extremely undervalued. We then pumped up in the first quarter of the year, like we've speculated many times, because as we've shown in essentially every video on the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio, that buying Ethereum in December with Bitcoin tends to yield a pretty significant return in terms of, like, say, your 90-day ROI. Okay, a pretty nice 90-day ROI buying Ethereum with Bitcoin in the last in say December of every year, and then in the fourth quarter of every year we've always trended down. So the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio has trended down in the fourth quarter of the year, and then it has revived after that. So we always go through the phase of Bitcoin, obviously Bitcoin is king. I'm not going to dispute that. But we always go through the phase of altcoins are dead. Now, I don't really consider Ethereum an altcoin. I like to consider it as like the index that I compare altcoins to. Like, if altcoins can't keep up with Ethereum, then what's the point of having too much exposure in altcoins? So what we want to look for, again, we're almost halfway through November. It's November 12th as I'm recording this video. So everything's playing out exactly how it has in years past, and it could lead us to another rally sometime over the next few months. Now, we don't know exactly when it'll be. Generally speaking, I would say that Bitcoin needs to start printing weekly candles moving sideways for Ethereum to start taking off with respect to Bitcoin. Again, Ethereum's gone up in USD. It was 370, 380 like 10 days ago. We don't care about this, right? Because the idea of having it in Ethereum is that you want to see a higher return than you would have just seen with Bitcoin. Now, I own more Bitcoin than Ethereum, but again, the reason to have Ethereum is because I want that extra volatility, and I think that by having that in my portfolio, I will see a slightly higher return, albeit I did pay for it with extra units of risk. So going back and looking at the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio now, we're currently at 0.0283. Okay, and the low in the short term has been around 0.0266. Okay, so we're not too far away from the low as measured from the current price. Or the current valuation, you can see that the low is about 6% lower than where we currently are. So this was a wick all the way down here. Now, one of the things we talked about on the channel before are a couple things, right? So let me go ahead and delete these because I really want to get into the nitty gritty here. One of the things we've talked about is this downtrend, okay? And then if you like that traditional TA type stuff, a double bottom, which we printed these double bottoms in the fourth quarter of last year. So I just want to color code those slightly different so they stand out a little bit more. So you can see that theoretical double bottom, and then we identified this macro trend reversal. Now, I drew these trend lines, I think about 8 or 9 months ago, and I have not touched them since. Okay, way over here before we knew exactly where these the price was going to take us, the Ethereum Bitcoin valuation was going to take us. We didn't know. You can see how well it performed or how it did not perform. So with the trend line that I drew, we spent most of the year in that region. You can see we dipped below it slightly here, and we dipped below it here. Now again, these are just imaginary lines. I mean, some would say that imaginary lines are made to be broken. And then the green box, of course, is what I've said I think is our theoretical reaccumulation phase of Ethereum against Bitcoin, and that we would likely spend a decent amount of time within this reaccumulation zone. And this essentially just comes from looking at our peak a couple peaks ago, and then also looking at this cool down phase before final capitulation. So this was our final capitulation. We've come back up to what I would consider to be our reaccumulation phase. Now, it begs the question, right? Are we going to continue within this uptrend? So one of the things, I don't like changing trend lines very often, generally speaking, just because at the end of the day, they're imaginary lines. If you have when you're looking at weekly time frames, if you give yourself the flexibility to change the trend line every week, then who cares, right? Anyone can do this. But let's maybe it's time to redraw them based on exactly what's been going on. And so what we can do is take another line, and I'll probably keep these lines on the chart moving forward for the next, maybe half year or more. And we'll see how it plays out. So we're going to draw it here, and this will help gauge. This could help us gauge where future theoretical local tops of the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio might be. So we're going to go ahead and color code this one. Let's color code it blue, and I might change the color of that at some point. And then we'll also just simply draw another one right here, and we'll color code that one blue as well. And we'll see. We'll see how well this trend holds up, and we see this top here, another top here, and then bottom, 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 and bottom. So we'll see how well it holds up. Remember, I do not trade exactly based on these trend lines. I stick to the risk levels that I talk about. But we're gonna follow and see how well can we stay within this trend line moving forward. And we do expect to see lower volatility of Ethereum against Bitcoin as compared to last cycle. So for the time being, let's remove these old trend lines that are somewhat outdated. We'll extend this one over like this and say, okay, this is our trend that we've been on for the last year or so. and we'll see if this trend continues. So I do still contend we'll spend a decent amount of time within this reaccumulation range. It's possible we drop down below in the short term. This is always possible, especially given Bitcoin's continued volatility. If Bitcoin continues to just print weekly candles, right? If it continues to print weekly candles that are this bullish and moving up this quickly, then again, as we said, Ethereum is going to struggle to stay up with Bitcoin. It just simply will. And once we do start printing weekly candles going sideways, then Ethereum might give it the catalyst it needs. Now, one of the things you have to be somewhat cognizant of is if Bitcoin continues to pump like this, right, in the short term, then Ethereum Bitcoin will likely bleed. Ethereum USD will probably continue to go up. Bitcoin has a way of dragging some of these coins up. There's other phases of the cycle. We've seen this before. Back in the summer, there's other phases of the market cycle where Ethereum is the mover and it drags Bitcoin up. But right now, it's the other way around. Bitcoin is dragging Ethereum up. So if Bitcoin continues this run, then Ethereum could easily make a run at $500 even before Bitcoin cools off. Now, one of the things you also have to be cognizant of is, given Bitcoin's extreme volatility, especially its move above the 20-week moving average, there will likely come a correction at some point. And when it does correct, if it's a big correction, let's say it's like 20%, then this could be a final capitulation of Ethereum against Bitcoin. You know, this could be like the time where it says, okay, this is the capitulation. It's because Bitcoin is bleeding 10-20%. And if then Bitcoin cools off and then starts moving sideways at a level still significantly above the 20-week moving average, then I would anticipate a further move of Ethereum against Bitcoin. Okay, so you have to be careful, because if Bitcoin does see that big correction, then most coins will continue to bleed against USD, or they would probably bleed against USD at that point, and they would probably bleed against Bitcoin at that point. You might say, oh, this isn't fair. Why would I bleed against Bitcoin? It's already been doing that. Well, you know, life isn't fair, and cryptocurrency sure does not always care about, you know, what others think is fair or not fair. So the goal now is to try to figure out what type of position you want to hold in Ethereum, given the risks associated with it. And of course, the main risk that you just need to keep an eye on is, okay, where's the 20-week moving average of Bitcoin? Currently, it's around 11,500, but it's moving up several $100s each week. So this is what you want to watch out for. If we break that, then the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio will likely not immediately turn around. However, if we come back down here and then move sideways, or we pump higher and then see a retracement, and then do something like that, then the Ethereum Bitcoin ratio will likely start to make a move. And historically speaking, we know that this move tends to come in the first quarter of the year. There's also been moves of Ethereum against Bitcoin in the summer. Here's one in June of 2017. We had a nice move this past summer in August that took us up to an Ethereum valuation of 0.04. If we reach 0.04 again at the current Bitcoin price, we're probably pushing between $650 and $700, somewhere around that ballpark. So I just want people to be aware that, you know, it's great to talk about things in terms of USD, but as we said before, we're better than that, because we recognize that if you only think about it in terms of USD, you're not just considering the position of only having held Bitcoin, which for the last few weeks would have outperformed Ethereum. So the idea now is to consider, well, why is Ethereum bleeding? There's several reasons. First of all, it tends to bleed in the fourth quarter of the year against Bitcoin. Does not mean the USD goes down, but it means its valuation against Bitcoin goes down. Historically speaking, for the last 5 years, this is year number 6 in the fourth quarter of bleeding against Bitcoin. We've also seen in the last 5 years that it tends to pump against Bitcoin in the first quarter. So this is the, you know, we're patiently awaiting a theoretical turnaround point. Now, is there a guarantee that Ethereum will pump against Bitcoin in the first quarter? No, there's not. There's no free lunch. If the entire world believed that this was going to happen, it would have already happened. So there is no free lunch, and it's a risk that you just simply have to take if you want exposure in Ethereum. Now, some might say, well, if the theoretical turnaround point is in December, then why not just wait till then? Well, you could. But remember, we don't know where the bottom is. And as I've said before, this was the bottom in September. and we still had a good theoretical buy at the end of December in 2019, even though that wasn't the local bottom. But it still yielded, from December, it still yielded a 60% return against Bitcoin over the first quarter of the following year. So in the same manner, this 0.0266 down here, this could be the local low, and maybe we don't go lower. And that's why I say, trying to time the top, trying to time the bottom, it's a fool's errand, in my opinion, because you just simply can't do it. And you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. Again, it's not financial advice, but generally speaking, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, because what if this time is different? What if this time Ethereum starts pumping against Bitcoin in December rather than January, February, or March? There's, just because it's done it for the last 5 years doesn't mean it's going to do that indefinitely for the next 30. It just means that, okay, there's a good chance that it will happen. Let's not put all our eggs in one basket that is what will happen. It seems so far that there is a good chance that will happen, given the same trend we've seen year after year, and the fact that Ethereum Bitcoin has been bleeding. It also bled in February and turned around. It also bled in April and turned around. And so this is just something we want to consider. And if it does turn around, if we do come down here and Bitcoin finally cools off, whenever that will be, and it does turn around and does something like this, then we're going to look back at this time and probably be happy that, we didn't know exactly where the bottom was, but we sure as hell were DCAing our ether along the way. And that's the key thing to remember. It's that you don't stress too much about trying to time the exact bottom. At the end of the day, trying to time the exact bottom, the risk associated with taking on that endeavor is so high, and the actual extra reward you get from doing so isn't nearly as high. Saying buying Bitcoin at 0.028, buying Ethereum at 0.028 against Bitcoin versus, say, waiting until maybe it goes down to 0.027, right? You're not going to see a huge difference there. I mean, yes, there's going to be some difference, and if you propagate it for an entire market cycle, it could make a difference, but is it worth the risk of 0.028 being the bottom? Or if we go to 0.027, are you going to wait till 0.026? That's basically the idea. I mean, it could go down to 0.025. It could go lower. But the point, again, is recognizing that, okay, we're in a key phase of the market cycle. We've been here many, many times. Yes, Bitcoin could bleed. Yes, Ethereum could bleed against Bitcoin in the short term, but we're not interested in the short term. We're more so interested in the macro scale and timing these momentum shifts in the market. Okay, so again, as I said before, let me first say, if you guys like the content, remember to subscribe to the channel, and we can follow this trend. I put out videos on Ethereum constantly, so we're going to follow this trend every step of the way. So make sure you subscribe. Remember, if you want access to the premium list, you can find that at intothecryptoverse.com. You get access to weekly email or weekly reports, premium reports, weekly premium videos, a private Telegram alerts channel, a private Telegram chat room, a risk dashboard, which is what I use to trade, and also some of the TradingView indicators. So you get access to a whole lot of stuff. Check it out. You can pay for 6 or 12 months. If you pay for 12 months, you get a 15% discount. Remember, you can value Ethereum and USD, but we're better than that. Okay? I'll see you guys next time. Bye.